Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to a special Monday edition of the Marvel Podcast. Happy Monday, everyone. We hope that you all had a marvelous week last week. We're here today, myself, Kyle the Fandalorian, Chris Hacks Dogma. We're here to talk about episode number 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's finally here, man. We just talked about how hyped we were because WandaVision was so good, but now, man, holy crap, right? It's good.
Oh yes, incredibly good. Well, I mean, it is a great start. I think there's a lot of room for them to mess this up. I think there's a lot of themes that like might be super controversial to a lot of people, but I don't know. I think they have a really good shot to tell a really good story, and I hope they lean into it and kill it.
Yeah, we were talking about kind of how it was going to be very difficult to top the story, Wanda's backstory, right? Because we've been talking about how Disney Plus has this really great opportunity to explore these backstories, and we're not saying they're B tier characters, but we've already explored
I'm saying they're B tier.
B tier characters, the main protagonists of Marvel. We got the Thor, the Iron Man. Those stories have kind of mostly already been told, right?
Yeah.
But now we're moving in. Yeah.
And I'll lean in. I'll say 100% they're B tier characters. Just because like Bucky, like he's been there for so long, right? But at the same time, before seeing, the emotional side, to see what he's now doing, to see what he's going through, like this is what I want for Wanda, right? Like I love this stuff. I love the emotional side. And the best part of the episode was anytime Bucky was on screen and having to come to the realization of like what he's done, having to understand it and having to try to make amends, knowing you'll never make amends for what you've done. Such a good part of this story.
I think he was the MVP of the episode, if we're going to be honest.
Without a doubt. Some of the lines with Anthony Mackie, like, love him as an actor. And honestly, like, I feel there's so many like funny Black Mirror jokes now that oh my gosh, what's his name? Jack Russell, who becomes a U.S. agent, the actor who's playing U.S. agent.
Wyatt Russell, yeah.
Yeah.
He's playing John Walker, U.S. agent in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah, and he also played in Black Mirror as well, right? And so like I have this like funny clip that's going to be in my video about how like they handled the scenario so differently. But I don't know. It was a great story, and again, it's setting up for a lot. I think nationalism is going to be a big part of this series. And if it's not, then they're weak for not leaning in and addressing exactly what Captain America went through and understanding that he's not just a soldier for America, he's a soldier for the world, and I love it.
That was really interesting, right? Because I felt like both Sam and Bucky's backstories were powerful this episode. We've been talking about this for a while now. We've been talking about how we want to see like more of their relationships, like what's important to them. Like, we never really got to learn about Sam's family, for example. And we got a really interesting scenario here where he's someone who helped basically save the world and the universe from Thanos, and he can't even get a loan to help save his family business. Like, that is pretty crazy. Like, post blip life, man, even superheroes are having issues there. I felt like there was some racial undertones that they're going to be exploring without a doubt on that one. And look, Vision was even able to buy a home and a plot of land compared to Mr. Sam Wilson, man. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, but like, so and so if anybody wants to interpret that as the racial issue of America, this is art. It's exactly what it's meant to be done, right? You can interpret it any way that you want, and it's still your genuine interpretation. But I feel like so much of the community, the groups that I've been on, the Reddit, like so many people have brought up this idea that like what they're showing in this first episode is that inequality, and systematic racism. Being explicitly what they're showing, which is so hard to prove. Like, you look at, Steven Crowder, you look at any of these people that are willing to debate about systematic racism, and it's so hard to actually articulate what systematic racism looks like. And, stuff like this, I think that Watchmen does a great great fucking job of racism in America. And I hope that they lean in and push that further and really show us, that discrimination. And it is interesting. Like I love it. I love the idea that they're tackling, such a big part of America and who we are. And this idea that they don't have money, that's the thing that kills me, though. How? He's a government contractor. He's a government contractor for 6 months. It's not like he just started a job. It's not like he's like, he literally has a pension. He literally did his time in the military, came out, is now a government contractor, overseas, active militant. Come on. That's the biggest thing. Like, that's the guillotine that kills my immersion in this episode, is that he doesn't have money to fix the oldest boat in American history. Like, I could fix that boat. Like, I am not. I don't know. I don't know how much it realistically costs, but it is an old boat, and it doesn't look like it's probably that much money to fix up. Like, all of that to say, it's so unbelievable to me that he does not have money, and that was the biggest immersion killer to me.
Certainly is so interesting too. We see the banker is more interested in taking selfies with him. Like, we know that there's this self-aggrandizement. People always like seeking to seek some sort of gratification through, whether it's attention, and that clearly what seemed like what it was like here. Like, he was like, let me get some attention from a superhero. I'm gonna look cool about this, which shined an even bigger spotlight on the issue. Like, I mean, like they were showing kind of some of the social issues that are happening right now, which is, and I think, you already talked about the point of nationalism, which is something that is going to be touched on even further. I have like an idea of like what some of these ideologies are going to be like from these terrorist groups. Are they completely against the idea of government? Why are they making the decisions that they're making? Like, we don't know why the Flagsmashers are robbing that bank, for example, right? And we do know, that there's a super soldier there. Maybe they are maybe this is, we're interpreting this wrong, and there's maybe some sort of Robin Hood group out there, this kind of like trying to take down these corrupt forms of government. Because later on in the episode, I mean, the final biggest point of the episode, we get the reveal that Sam literally gave up his shield for gave up Captain America's shield and legacy for the greater good, and then they disappoint this guy who's like got a punchable face like Joffrey. Like just look at him. He's the background in our live stream right now.
He's so ugly. God. So bad.
But you know what I mean, though?
He looks like the old man from Up, like 100%.
That was like a giant slap in the face to Sam. Like, the amount of disrespect they just paid him, but not only Captain America's legacy, to do that without even contacting him is wow. I was, and it was awesome, because if you go all over Reddit and Twitter, people were like, not my Captain America. People were pissed, dude. And even though Sam had these like moments of like, I don't really know if the shield is mine, that still felt like something that was so bad,
Oh yeah. So I mean, one, I don't understand the outrage. When I saw his face, it was like so clearly the stupidest humanly stupid person that you could put in that mask. Like, it is such a terrible design. Like, the actor himself is a very handsome person. It does not work with that mask. So the fact that they did that just has always felt like such an intentional thing to show that he's, not
kind of like
right
goofy almost.
Yeah, he's goofy. Yeah. He's not right for this role. He's going to be outgunned and kind of put in his place by Sam and or Bucky. It's going to be like this big thing to like show who the real Captain America is, or what it means to be a hero outside of a titled character. I do want to agree with your point about the Robin Hood character. A point from Sam's sister when she's trying to justify why she doesn't feel comfortable talking to the banks is that she brings up big business owning so much and being such a big part of the world post blip, which we can relate to now. Like, that's such a big issue now. The
inequality gap that you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah, and of course, like, it's a Switzerland bank. It's a literal Swiss bank. Like, of course, this is going to be, them stealing from the rich, and who knows? I don't know if they'll give it to the poor, but it's probably going to finance their whatever master plan that they're doing, and as such can be for the greater good.
I don't think it's for the greater good, because if you look at the end credits, the power broker was mentioned there, and he has some ties to some terrorist organizations. And I guess we kind of knew from the trailers early on that, that these kind of groups were going to be showing up. And obviously it was mentioned the Flagsmashers are this anti-nationalist organization, but it's going to be interesting to see how they spin it for the MCU, because we do know that they like to kind of tweak things, right?
I mean, here's the thing though. I think they could very well, I think they will get the morally gray bad guy treatment that, everybody does. So it's like a mystery. Ooh, are they good? Are they bad? And then everyone's like, I like these because they are complex. And the reality is that they're not. They're just, there's a thin veil, deciding whether or not they're good or bad, and, an actual weight to their actions. I think that they'll probably be good. Think about what they're doing. They are very much saying, so one, the only account that we have of them, well, I guess we have two accounts now, but we have the first account, which is a soldier, which is not a high-ranking soldier, telling us what they interpret this group to be. Soldiers tell you what their superior told them, and that is exactly how it works. I interpret them and being described as this organization because it makes sense. The military, the U.S. government would be against the people that are trying to take down borders, right? It's literally saying that they want to live in a world that doesn't have borders. Or something, or whatever hope that they found in the blip, recreate that. And as long as they don't do that by militant means or sacrifice people to make that happen, then yeah, I mean, they can definitely call themselves the good guys. I think that they will probably be the most complex part of this entire series. Is the
Well, the Flagsmasher group will be interesting, but I also kind of feel like the U.S. government could be seen as sort of antagonistic in all of this, because if you look at someone like Sam Wilson, for example, look at his record. You know what I mean? Look, he hasn't really. I mean, okay, yeah, Captain America: Civil War, he was on Cap's side, but look what Cap was fighting for. You know what I mean? There's this very two distinct ideologies, and you can argue for both of them. But I was totally on Cap's side in the Civil War, like what he was fighting for.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? Because we see Sam aligned with Captain America, who was not explicitly aligned with the U.S. government, at the end of his life. And now we see this group that is clearly opposed by the U.S. government, and we're supposed to, I think that they want us to interpret that as that we should also, make them the antagonists, mentally opposing Sam and Bucky. The people that we're genuinely rooting for in this story, the people that we care about. I don't care about the U.S. government of fictional MCU world. I care about Sam and Bucky. So it's like, I think again, it's being set up that they are this big bad entity, when in reality, if you really dive into it, a lot of their interests seem like they could align with Sam, or that they could align with Captain America. Because it's look at their final action of the episode, right? They made Sam do this, Sam gave this brilliant speech in public. You know what I mean? It was televised, everything. He was basically Captain America's best friend, other than Bucky. This is a pretty big deal, right? And that's the symbol of Captain America is a huge deal to America, specifically, not just America, but the world too. Cap did a lot, he fought the Nazis, right, in the MCU world. So it's just so interesting how this is getting interpreted, because I think that, like you said, it's going to be really jumbled, because we got the character of Baron Zemo, and I think that obviously this U.S. agent character who they've picked, we don't know enough about him yet, but from the comics, he's kind of a loose cannon. He's not as controlled. He doesn't have I don't want to use D&D terms here, but Captain America Steve Rogers is more like a paladin, and this guy's like a chaotic neutral barbarian. You know what I mean? This guy, he has a bit of wild to him, and I'm really interested to see if they're going to show his kind of military backstory. Maybe there's some sort of we'll see if his record is clean or not. I want to see we're going to see the reason why they chose him, I think, is what I'm getting at. Yeah. And so you said that there's a post-credit scene of this first episode?
No, there isn't a post-credit scene, but if you look in the credits, there's it says the Power Broker right on there, and then there's Patriot. That's there's all sorts of imagery in, there's the Baron Zemo mask is spray painted. If you look at the end credits, there's all sorts of Easter eggs in there, man.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the power broker being, kind of this shadow government character creating super soldiers. I think that's where they're going with it, because obviously the Flag Smashers are, at least this one Flag Smasher, whoever this is. I think it's going to be the character of Songbird, played by Aaron Kellerman. We heard the communication right at the start of the bank job when all of that was going down, right? So I think you're right. There's going to be this kind of blurring and more graying of characters, which I find more interesting, because I think Baron Zemo's intentions, Hamid Zemo, his intentions are to basically get rid of superheroes, eradicate mutants. I think that will be a sentiment that we're going to see throughout the series. We're going to go to Madripoor, where we may see some X-Men, and they may even tease some mutants, and that's going to kind of really open up the Marvel multiverse. But his kind of intentions, I'm just really wondering in how many sides he's going to be playing. You know what I mean? Because I think
definitely all of them.
Well, I mean, he formed the Thunderbolts in the comics, right? Yeah. Like, this was the superhero group, and then we found out it was a bunch of villains trying to appear as doing superhero-like things, so they could clear that image. So it's going to be really interesting to see where all this is going. But I'm super intrigued at the kind of cultivation they did in the first episode. It was mostly a setup episode, but I felt like they did enough to really get me like, I could kind of see where this is going.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. Like, assuming that the trailers are being straightforward, which they're probably not, I guess. But I believe they show that at some point, Baron Zemo will be working alongside of this group that we, know wear the masks, which are the Flagsmashers. They could be doing a similar to Thunderbolts, but I don't know. Like, it feels like if Baron Zemo's involved, he's probably still the lone wolf and probably just using these groups for
his own gain.
Yeah, they could very well believe that they're doing, exactly what they think they are. They think that they're Robin Hood. In reality, they're just robbing people.
It's going to be really interesting to see what all that money is going for, because clearly that's going to be a big deal. Like, what do they need that money for, right? And we know that Sokovia is going to be playing a big role in all this. We saw through the trailers that started, before the season, that we saw Zemo standing at the Sokovian memorials, and we know the Sokovia Accords are probably going to be getting broken. We know that Sam and Bucky were tied to that. So that whole story, that getting fleshed out, I'm really interested to see where that goes to, because that kind of ties in with this whole U.S. agent thing and what their intentions really are with this new Captain America, right? Like, we know that the messaging that they present isn't necessarily what they exactly want behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I will say, like, man, Sam should have really known that they were going to give the shield to somebody else. Like, Captain America has always been, except for, when Steve Rogers had his own agency and broke apart, like, it was always meant to be a propaganda machine. The very first mission he ever had was going around and selling war bonds by describing him beating up Hitler. Like, that was it. It was propaganda. It was the greatest propaganda, you could have as Americans. And now I think we're getting back to that, right? We're going to see him used as propaganda and used as this masthead. I don't know if he's going to get like the Mandalorian, or I'm sorry, the Mandalorian. No, Manchurian. Iron Man 3. What's the bad guy from Iron Man 3?
Oh, that's Adrian Killian.
Iron Man 2.
What? You're getting confused here, I think.
Yeah, the guy who's an actor. He's an actor. He's Ben Kingsley.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he's the Mandarin.
Thank you, Jesus. Mandalorian. Yeah, he's the Mandalorian. Yeah, so it could be similar to that, right? Where I have no expectation that he has any powers or is anything other than that figurehead. And who knows if that's true or not, but I do think that Rhodey might be involved as well. Because when Rhodey's talking to Sam, he's like, "Hey, are you sure you don't want this?" Like, in 3 different ways, he's like, "America needs this. Our world needs structure now more than ever." And then he's like, "Okay, if you really don't want this," and then he leaves. Like, if you're sure that this is what you want to do, I could totally see. He's literally in the military. He is active duty. Like,
But maybe
Yeah.
he didn't really have a choice in picking this guy. I'm really interested to see what kind of characteristics this person has, because I think we know, like, I think we kind of already know the fourth wall is broken with this guy. We know that he's not going to be exactly like Steve Rogers. You know what I mean? Like, we know from the comics, there's multiple comic book storylines about this guy where he actually is an ally to Captain America. But then there's also these other stories where this guy is a loose cannon.
Just
so it's
look
going
at
to be
his face. Just look at his face, dude. There's no way he is anything but the punchline. Like,
I just think like the whole Sam not being contacted, even though he gave up the shield, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like, yes, that was Sam's decision. 100%. That was his decision because Steve gave him the shield. That's a big deal, right? Like, that was his decision to make. But still, it still even felt like a slight, even though Sam made that decision, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, like, they didn't really have any conversations about how they were going to go forward into the future about anything about Captain America, other than that they wanted the shield for some sort of fucking exhibit, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, the Smithsonian's government funded, so I mean, he should have known. You know, but it also, like, I think the reason that they do that is it shows, you know, how, you know, the people view these heroes. Like, they're at the service of the people, as opposed to, like, they expect them. They you know, if you look at what Hayward did to Vision, and how he treated Wanda, like, it is very much like not from a place of respect. It's like, you guys are here, but we are, you know, the government, the people in charge. We are the people in charge.
We have power over you.
Yeah, we have power over you, and, you know, we're going to make these decisions, and you are going to accept them. You know, and in Wanda's case, like, she's intentionally baited into what happens. Maybe not with the expectation that she creates hell on earth for 4,000 people, but, you know, it is still that same power dynamic, and I think that it applies here as well. You know, that new politician that's talking when he's introduced, I think is probably going to be a reoccurring character, because, like, the actor seems like he could be a really good politician actor, to show, like, to just be like a masthead for, or I'm sorry, a representative of the government, and who we can, like, put our frustrations towards as we realize that the government probably isn't doing.
Probably get some Thaddeus Ross as well, because he was. I mean, we talked about him a little bit in our Falcon and Winter Soldier preview, where, you know, we see he showed up in Endgame, and Rhodey kind of had an interaction with him, but then he played a big role in Captain America: Civil War with the whole Sokovia Accords and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's like, I'm like 90% sure he's going to show up in the show, because he's the guy that really runs big the dog. Ship. Yeah, he's the big dog.
Yeah, if he doesn't, that they would be forgetting a major character that is directly involved with the U.S. government. And maybe this show isn't going to be what I think it is, and it's not going to tackle these big issues. But, you know, I think it will, and I think he's going to be involved.
It was really interesting to explore some more of kind of like the I'm lost, where do I go from here post life MCU, like that. That's what they were really exploring. You know, I mean, obviously for Sam, I guess the feeling of regret, and then Bucky feeling so much guilt for killing Yori's son because he was the Winter Soldier, you know, trying to cultivate that relation. That was my favorite part of the episode. And I think that it's so interesting to explore those two specific emotions for those characters. And I think obviously the whole therapy sessions that we were getting teased in the trailers that we know is going to be kind of, you know, these bookends for these episodes. We're probably going to see that in every episode, you know, kind of these flashbacks to them going to talk about things that have really affected them. But now it's like this, it felt like, I don't want to say the tension was gone from all of these big events, but it felt like they were kind of moving forward. But now them choosing another Captain America creates this new tension again, because Bucky and Sam share such a strong relationship to Steve. And it's going to be really kind of like it looks like in the next episode, they're throwing some sort of, like, I don't know if it's the Super Bowl or some sort of media event, but US Agent is getting celebrated, and he's going to be making his kind of, you know, reality TV show kind of face review, I guess.
Yeah. It I don't know. It'll be interesting. And I'm glad that they had Bucky and Sam apart for this first episode. You know, it really gave both of these characters enough time without them being forced together. Like there wasn't some big event that pushed them back together. I think eventually that'll come, but like seeing these characters individually interact with their worlds was perfect. Like it was exactly what it needed to be.
And we like one of the big things in the episode is the therapist asked Bucky like, "Hey, how many people do you have in your cell phone? Like, how many Facebook friends do you have, Bucky?" And he's like, and then they're talking about the conversation about text messages. He hasn't replied. There's a reason for that, but it feels like Sam and Bucky kind of need each other right now. To be honest, I mean, Steve was such someone that had so much wisdom for both of them, right? Like he was able to be honest with both of his friends and say what was up in most situations. You know what I mean? How he really felt about things, and that's even being removed from living essentially for years and years and years and years, and being thrown into this kind of world where he didn't felt like he fit in. So Sam is kind of in a similar position to where Cap is. He doesn't really like. I feel like they both were feeling what Steve was feeling when he kind of re-entered the world.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's cool to see that, like specifically with Bucky. You know, I liked a lot of his interactions. I liked that he befriended a man similar to his age, right? You know, there's a joke about Pinochle, and it's like, hey, what's wrong with Pinochle? And I don't know. I really liked his character. Seeing him wake up. Well, firstly, the nightmare. I was like, oh my God, he's wearing makeup. Oh my God, he has the old arm on his arm, where he's wearing the whole old arm. And it was just like, wow, this is a flashback, and how is this going to tie in? And then of course it tied in a very small way. Like it was small in the sense of like the grander plot, but of course massive to what he's doing and what he wants to be in the world. And seeing him try to right those wrongs is just, oh dude, so good.
That was so interesting, right? Because he's got his lists of amends that he has to make. He has a list of people that he feels that he needs to make amends to, because he went on these missions. Like, look, Yori's son was basically this collateral damage in his mission, right? Like he couldn't let this guy escape and possibly speak on who he was in that situation. That would have complicated things for Bucky. He was programmed. He wasn't fully aware in that situation that I think like the Bucky we see now definitely wouldn't kill that guy. You know what I mean? Because Bucky was essentially being tortured and brainwashed. But now got this interesting situation where it's like, I feel like, he's probably going to tell Yori at some point because he's got to know him and become real friends with him. But that's going to be such an interesting situation to navigate. Like, holy shit, that is some heavy shit, my man.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't know. And Bucky, man, I feel so bad for him. Like he is so alone. And honestly, what did you think of the therapy? Like, what did you think of what she was telling him? Because at some point I was just like, dude, like this is not right. I think it felt like what they were showing us is like a realistic view at what VA therapy is like, veterans assistant therapy is like, it felt like it wasn't exactly what it needed to be. It was always just like very blunt and harsh and just so wrong for some reasons.
Big government psychiatry. I mean, we talked about this kind of sentiment earlier, Hacks, where it's like Bucky has worked for these secret organizations, right? Like he literally helped Captain America fight Hydra, right? Like that's I mean, it's in the Smithsonian. He's there with him. He's in there with Cap, right? He's 106 years old, dude. He's been around. Like he's been there for these big world events.
How is that? Like, and that's some speculation. Like there's talk of a plot hole because in Far From Home, he's one of the heroes that is honored. But this fight, we know the end game fight was televised or was recorded or some kind of way because of WandaVision. They discuss how specifics of the fight with Monica. So we know that these people were known. How is he able to walk down the street like nobody knows him?
He committed terrorism.
Yeah, he was a terrorist. Like he was, and a lot of that was covert, right? A lot of that was covert.
I guess he's kind of laying low now. Like we don't know what
Yeah.
government agency he's working for. It's like not clarified or anything. I
I
mean,
don't think he's working for anybody. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, he could. I mean, he still went and took down that government official that he helped install.
Yeah, I think that's entirely on his own fruition.
Yeah.
Like, which is interesting because one, he's not alerting the government that these people, like this massive list, needs to be taken down. But I also love that he's doing it solo. Like, you know, he's definitely breaking those rules, right? But at the same time, like he doesn't kill anybody. He doesn't, you know, do any more harm than he needs to. He takes control of the car. Super cool. Definitely possible. You know, puts it in park, punches the guy out that pulls a gun on him, and is like, "Hi, I'm Bucky. I'm here to make amends. You know, I put you in power, and unfortunately, I got to take that away. Sorry."
He's not trying to kill someone, but like
Yeah.
that dude is like either dead or near death. You know, Bucky.
Oh, I don't think he's. Yeah, I think he's. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think he's dead, but like he used deadly force on him. You know, it's like just like I actually found that I don't find real violence funny, but like I found that funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was, and also like the whoever was
smile.
sitting in his car,
he smiled at the end too.
yeah, and whoever was sitting in the car, like the guy that he punched, we only see his face for like a split second, but God, he was ugly. Whoever he was just like such a disgusting
he was an 106-year-old Bucky Sebastian Stan. We see Kate Bertinsky thirsting in chat. Dude is 106. Yeah, there was a big thread on how good looking Sebastian Stan is. Basically, it was trending on Twitter on the Friday, but that's kind of been a thing for a while now, anyways, right? So what are some other things that stood out to you, Hacks? This one thing I think that we should talk about is the length of the episode and the pacing. Obviously, with WandaVision, you know, we had some shorter episodes to start, and I think that we knew that the format was going to be, you know, they're going to be adapting these other TV sitcoms into WandaVision. The fourth wall is already broken. We kind of knew that it was going to be more Doctor Strange-esque as far as like Marvel niches go. But now we're kind of in this, you know, we are in this area where we can kind of understand the story a little bit more. It's not like so hidden from us. They're presenting us things that are, you know, I don't want to say obvious, but things that we can understand more easily. You know what I mean? And I think the storytelling is fantastic so far, but what are some of the things that kind of stood out to you for the first episode? Like 50-minute episodes that I felt like the pacing was great. I didn't feel like it was chunky anywhere for me, really, essentially.
I felt that there's a couple slow parts. I feel like some of the dialogue could have been cleaned up. There was a couple parts like Anthony Mackie makes a white people joke. It's like you know how to mess with these white people, and it was the most awkward way to deliver that line. I legitimately cringed. Like I was like, "Ooh, that is not good." Like that is the most unnatural thing. Nobody would ever say that, like outside of like a very specific context. And it wasn't that.
That was greenlit specifically for like, because we talked about like they're going to be definitely exploring what it's like to be possibly a black Captain America. Like that would be, you know, I mean, Steve Rogers is white. That's very different than how black people are treated in America. So I think that's, I mean, obviously an interesting dynamic.
Definitely. With that in mind, I don't think a black person in that scenario would say, you know, I don't mess with these white people while they're making plates, which, you know, that's the whole thing. We have no context for why they're doing this. We don't know the white people that they're talking about. You know, it's like, I feel like if we asked everyone in the audience what those plates were for, like a few of us would know. Like I had to really figure it out because they're going to sell these things to make extra money, which we never see. You know, it's implied that like the white person that he's talking about is of course the banker. But you know, it's not like they're literally preparing the food and you know, how they don't mess with, you know, white people because of spices or some kind of joke like that. Which then if you look at the set design, there's Old Bay in the back on one of the shelves, which no Louisiana person would ever have Old Bay on their counter like that. And I was just, I don't know. So anyway, all of that aside, what I liked about the episode, I liked a lot. I liked that there was so much emotion and so much male emotion too. Like, you know, there's such a big point of this where, like we know what Sebastian's going through. We know that he is going through something that is almost indescribable. I mean, like, how could you possibly relate to that? But they also frame it in such a way that you can relate to it. He's trying to make amends and going forth with his life and trying to figure out what to do when the reality is that what do you do? What does anybody do? To get by their days, let alone after you've been a pawn of foreign agents and murdered other people for political gain.
It's really interesting what you're the idea that you're presenting. Can superheroes have anxiety and depression? I mean, I think that Iron Man 3 is an incredibly underrated movie just for that fact that we see Tony going through this kind of trauma of him almost dying when he saves friggin' Earth from the Chitauri and all of that, right? Like the first Avengers movie. And I think that I really like the idea too, Chris, like exploring Bucky's trauma. Like, we obviously know that he committed these acts and they weren't good. These are not good things that he did, right? But also having like understanding why and understanding that he has the capacity to change is a big deal, right? Like the capacity to feel regret and understand that and for him to acknowledge the people that are feeling pain because of him is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's incredible storytelling to me. That is something that I'm looking forward to. Even though it like hurts me to see someone else in pain, it's like, oh my God, man. Like, I would love to see if Bucky could come clean with Yori. Like that is certainly something that's on our minds now, I think.
Yeah, they definitely set it up. Like, we're just now waiting for that other shoe to drop, and seeing him at the door, like wanting to make it right, but not wanting to have more hurt go out into the world. Just not knowing what the right thing to do is, but wanting to do that right thing is just so good. Yeah. And so Kai brings up this point from the Black perspective. It made sense. Basically, we have to be perfect and politically correct with certain white people, especially in the South. And that's interesting. I still don't think anyone would, regardless of color, anyone would ever say that in the context of that conversation. Like, it's not like there's no setup for the joke. There's no, we don't know the target audience. There's not play between the two adult characters there, that are kind of poking fun with the children. Like, you would make a white person joke in more of a joking way, but like rewatching that scene, like, it is just the way that it's delivered. It is the most awkward thing fucking ever. And I will die on that hill. Like, I don't know if it's Anthony Mackie's, delivery of that line, or it's just such an out of place way to make a white people joke, but like I don't know. It didn't sit with me. Like, I mean, it's not bad. Like, okay, I am saying it's bad. It's not so bad that it like ruined my immersion for the entire thing. It was just like, why? Like, we don't know who you're talking about. Like, okay, like, all right. Like, but yeah,
certainly a list of interesting problems that need to be solved from these characters. We know that we're going to be getting longer episodes, which is great for this kind of storytelling too, because now we have now we obviously have these two perspectives that are apart, right? Which is something that's really interesting. I'm really interested to see what happens when they get back together. Obviously, we know this is going to happen at some point, but how many more episodes are we going to see them stay apart?
Probably not much. I mean, of course, it's
you
titled,
think maybe by the end of the next episode, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, probably very quickly. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It was good. Great first episode, and I like a lot of their individual stories. Again, the idea that Anthony Mackie, I don't know why I keep calling that, why Sam Wilson, was having financial troubles. Fuck, I hated that so much. So much wrong with that. The idea that he has no money enough to buy a brand new boat, let alone the world's ugliest shrimping boat or whatever it's supposed to be. Like, surely it cannot cost that much. Surely that loan was not for that much. And the fact that they're denied, yes, definitely a racial issue. I'm sorry, probably a racial issue. But at the same time, she brings up the idea of big business having such an influence over their current environment. And again, I think that's why we're seeing such a gray area with the Flagsmashers and robbing Swiss bank accounts. Like, they are literally stealing from rich, and we have again the tie into Black America now experiencing, this deprivation because of big business. I think that there's a good likely possibility that they're the.
It's going to be really interesting to see if any of the new Captain America's deeds will be published on television. Like, will TV crews be following him around, or are they going to be trying to like market this and sell it? You know what I mean? Because because that's what it kind of feels like. They're kind of trying to produce this, as opposed to where Captain America just did things behind the scenes because that was something that he believed in. You know what I mean?
It was produced at first, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why Captain America diverged from what he was made for. Like, it was literally propaganda, and that's what we're getting back to. I think it's similar to how in The Boys, that we see these marketing teams, we see superheroes marketed, other than just being utilitarian good heroes for the entire planet,
having social media teams,
money, for money and power and social media influence, and and
that's something that can be exploited in a negative way, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's something that's going to be super interesting, right? Like, I think that we're going to see that, and then are they going to have this U.S. agent who is this new Captain America, quotation marks? Is he going to respond to these? Because I think that he's going to be the one to respond to these terrorist attacks from the Flagsmashers, and they're going to be kind of the one butting heads. And then we're going to see Zemo kind of come into play, and that's going to complicate everything behind the scenes, right? Because because we see Zemo is clearly on Bucky's list. He's right at the top, right? Like, he's someone that needs to be dealt with eventually, and someone that is. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be the main. He's the main antagonist for the show.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think, of course, like, he's going to pull strings on the Flagsmashers, and he probably has strings in the government already. I don't know how, or even I don't know if we know how he's out of prison yet, right? We don't.
It's going to be
the last time we saw him was speaking to Black Panther.
It's going to be really interesting. Yeah. And we saw Batroc the Leaper join George St. Pierre's character. So we could start to see some of these other, like, we got the Flagsmashers. We got Batroc, who is wearing kind of Hydra-esque colors. We know Zemo has got ties to other organizations from the comics. He kind of leads his own. It's going to be interesting to see if maybe he's kind of the head of all of these other terrorist organizations who form these kind of, like, I don't want to say Avengers, but dark Avengers, I guess. You know what I mean? This kind of like anti-Avengers sentiment that we're going to be seeing with the Flagsmashers and other groups anyways. And you can be like, oh, I'm going to unite you guys behind one common goal type thing,
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. Kai says, to me, the white people line, along with the bank loan part, was basically the writers telling me we're going to talk about race and issues with it. Yeah, totally. And that's at the start of this podcast is something that I brought up as well. Like, I hope that they lean into that and talk about, genuine issues with race in America. If you go back and watch Watchmen is a great example of how they handle race and properly show racism in America and how,
they don't just skirt the issue and dance around it. They show the awkwardness because it's real.
And they don't even show just like, they show Ku Klux Klan reinvented as whatever the fuck they're called. But they also show the subtlety of it, right? They show the tiny microaggressions, I guess you would call them, that ultimately, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't make generalizations about any people, and I think it's great. And so, at the same time, fuck that line. I think that's the issue. I think that's why I have such an issue with the white people line, is that, like, it's used as not genuine dialogue, but to get us to the point where the audience knows that it's going to be a sensitive subject, right? Like, it's not, and I also think it's hard to deliver a good white people joke without cursing or without, like, really leaning into it and being edgy or something like that. But it seems like as a Disney show walking the line, it's maybe that's why it's so hard to pull off. But I don't know. I want to talk to Anthony myself and make fun of him for his delivery of it, I guess.
We have a couple of interesting comments here. I wonder if Walker, U.S. agent, will know if he's in the wrong for taking up the mantle, or he's relying on his relationship with the government to believe he's the new Cap. And then he says, at some point, we see Sam with the shield in the trailer. So how soon does he get back the shield? Could that be that he was training with the shield beforehand with Bucky, like has some sort of flashback? I mean, it feels like he's got to get it back. Like we know he's got to get it back at some point, but maybe we see this kind of past, present, future deal going on because they already presented that with Bucky, right? Like with the whole Winter Soldier stuff, right? So I think honestly, that is. I don't know. What do you think?
I hope the entire series he doesn't have the shield. I hope genuinely the entire thing, like the part of when we see them practicing with the shield, it is like it's the final episode. It's like the victory and then them kind of coming back to normality or like a general stasis of their lives. That would be a really interesting way to present it. Yeah because like
then there would be like the sense of continuation of like how do they go forward with this story.
And Falcon doesn't need a shield. Like, there's, we've talked about this before, like choosing a shield as opposed to any other weapon is such a great symbol of hope because it shows without any doubt that you're not the aggressor. You are always the protector. Of course you can use anything as a forward aggressive weapon. But the symbolism is there. Like you are always wanting to shield people.
You are a defender of good.
Yeah. And so I like that idea. But at the same time, Falcon, badass character, has so many cool abilities that could exist without him explicitly carrying a shield around that, he would fly and it would detach from his back and then he'd have to fly back and pick it up and then continue on the mission or something. I don't know. Like, it's not needed for his kit.
I love this comment too from Kai. The new Cap gives me Homelander vibes. Yeah, totally, man. That's what I'm thinking too, and that's what I think is we're going to see this progression of this character. I don't think this person is completely mentally stable, is what I'm getting at. If we're going from his character from the comics, but one thing that I think is super interesting too that we didn't really talk about was the whole opening sequence, dude. Holy shit! Like we knew that we were going to be getting some action hacks, and that was as good as it gets. I think that was the best fighting sequence we've seen with Falcon yet, for sure, right?
Yeah, some of his fights when he was going against, when he was taking down the planes or the shield, like the 3 mega ships, that was also pretty cool. Yeah,
and that was against Bucky, right?
yeah. And yeah, so I like the opening a lot. This great action, so cool. There was a part where when the bad guys jump out of the plane, there's like a smirk on his face. I'm like, why are you smiling? Why are you like,
he's going to catch you, dude. He's going to catch you.
Yeah. This dude just jumped into your airplane with wings on his back. Why do you think you are at all safe to jump out of this plane? Like, you might as well just die in the plane, I guess. I don't know what the alternative is, but it just seemed like he was way too cocky to jump out of that plane knowing what he's going against. Like,
we're moving towards the comments and questions part of the podcast as well, and this is a really interesting comment from Morningstar here. New Cap will tiptoe the line of vigilante, interesting word, justice. Some may love it, most will probably think he's gone way too far.
I would be shocked. # shocked if that's what his character's going to be. I think personally,
I don't know. What do you think? So you're saying, you're going to be on the other side of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. My side is he is a figurehead. He is, publicity. He is propaganda. Puppet. He is a puppet. As far as we know, see, here's the thing. There's 2 scopes of thought. Either he is useless and just that, as I just described, or he has the super soldier serum, which will show that American politics is doing doing what they said that they would never do, right? It's going back with the super soldier serum. It's showing them doing, behind the scenes. What am I thinking of? Like Hitler-esque science to make super soldiers that would ultimately be interpreted as, fascism or coming up with the next idea of Ubermensch for the American people, like something that everyone could be. Like it either shows that the American government is using this explicitly as propaganda, like Captain America was supposed to be used, or it's showing that America behind the scenes is doing a ton of bad things, which I think both are promising routes.
Well, I mean, the timeline kind of got screwed up with how all of the Disney Plus shows were supposed to come out. Everything got pushed back. All sorts of movies were supposed to come before. And we know that Yelena Belova is going to be appearing apparently in Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is really interesting. But we got kind of we always knew, I mean, look at what happened in Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier. We knew that Hydra was infiltrating the government. And it's clear that that's still happening now because we have Bucky
still going after people. Yeah.
He's still going after people. And then we also in WandaVision look at Hayward and Sword, man. His abuse of power was it was crazy, right? Like what he was basically creating an Ultron for himself. So it's going to be interesting because I think we knew that this was the kind of this kind of symbology was going to be explored within. This is going to be one of the main themes. This is some of the mythology that's been kind of cultivated in the MCU, not just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I mean, some of why Stan Lee created the comics and superheroes in the first place, right? Like Captain America is one of his first creations. So I'm really super interested to see where they go with this. Like I felt like it was a setup episode, but I really loved where they took the emotional beats of the story. And I felt like it was executed very nicely. Because I think we know that WandaVision was like, okay, that's S tier. Like if we're gonna rank stuff as far as how good it is, WandaVision was S tier, right? Like that's how like it's like boom, that's above A. That's good. But now we're starting to get me like, oh, okay, like maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of underrated, man. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna pop off.
Yeah, I think the majority of WandaVision is definitely S tier, and that what I would have liked to see with WandaVision is, of course, the emotional side that we're now getting with Bucky, and I think that's great. And I think, of course, that means that Wanda will eventually go through that. Disney is acknowledging that this is a part of the human experience. It's a part of the hero experience, and it needs to be addressed at some point. Either that, or she's just a villain, and who knows. But yeah,
she would make a compelling villain, man. She's so powerful, dude. I think she will be antagonistic for a large part of Doctor Strange too. Maybe a portion of the movie. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, overall, what was your favorite moment of the episode? Hacks, what do you think was the biggest moment that stood out to you?
I love the complete sequence of him having a somewhat normal conversation Bucky having a somewhat normal conversation with the girl, like their first date, and then him leaving, and then the suspense of about to tell Yuri, like just all of that entire thing was just so compelling. It felt like they spent an appropriate amount of time to really make sure that the emotion was there. And we see him wanting that normal life, him again realizing that he'll never have that, him leaving, and then that opportunity to kind of make it right, but then realizing that in the moment he would just cause more harm, and not wanting to ultimately create more harm, which maybe he should have done. I have no idea what he should have done. But
that was also my favorite moment, and Kate says she's in on that too. And here's why I agree with you. WandaVision, what they did by going back and touching on a story like Age of Ultron, which didn't seem like it was much must-watch Marvel material. Like, okay, I go back and watch every movie. Like I go do that every year. I kind of go through and watch, I'll pick a day, I pick a movie, and I keep on, and I go watch through. But now this feels like it's strengthening the stories that Marvel has already told in the past, where they had a limited amount of time to do it. And movies, we know that Marvel movies are going to be like kind of capped at like 2.5 hours. Like, okay, like some of them might get up to 3 hours if you're talking like an Avengers movie. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like, the whole Infinity Gauntlet saga. Okay, that's appropriate to have like a 3-hour movie or whatever. But this is going back and strengthening. I mean, like the fact that Disney Plus is a platform now, dude, I keep on saying this. I feel like this is kind of Marvel's Super Saiyan form, because now they can fill in the blanks in all of these different areas. Like this is kind of what we were looking for with Bucky's backstory. Like, oh, damn, like he's made friends with the guy of the son he killed on a mission. Like that is incredibly compelling storytelling. And
was that obvious to you?
Oh man, like,
Did you know that when you saw?
I knew right away. I felt it
I
right
did
away.
not know. I did not know. I guess like the clues were there. Maybe I should have known, but like
because his list was presented like because him and the therapist are talking about making amends, right? And then that's kind of like the way they shifted each scene, like that preceded that scene. So I was like,
definitely makes sense. But like I was, as soon as like I like paused it and
chat, let
called
us
my
know
wife.
By the way, and chat, let us know by the way as well how you felt about that. If that was something you kind of calculated. Go ahead. Sorry, Hacks.
Yeah, but like I paused it and called my wife because she just went to the bathroom, and I was like, Amber, this is the guy. This is the father of the guy from the. Oh my god! Like this is, and that was the moment I was like, this is it. This is so good, you know. And of course, like, yeah, I guess it should have been obvious.
And that's
like,
the only friend that Bucky has is the one that he's making of someone that doesn't know that killed his son. Like that's what complicates the situation even more because we hear the therapist say like, hey, like you're not like, you know, you got to open up. You got to address things in your life. You got to like emotionally, you have to grow from all of this. Like these are things that are hurting you, you know,
and you can't be alone. And that's something she reinforces, like that silence when you are in that dark spot, that is a damning silence.
And him choosing not to be alone with him of all people that's what makes it so compelling, I think.
But I think it's also like how he's going to need to rely on Sam. You know, it's like he needs that friend. And so I hope we see like comedy and buddy cop, them kicking butt together, but I don't know, man. I want to see a good cry or hug or something from the two of them.
I think we all need hugs because of the pandemic. Hugs, please, everyone.
Touch starvation. Hell yeah.
I love you 3,000.
Wait, everyone. Oh, I got it on the soundboard for you.
I love you 3,000.
I love you 3,000 chat and also Hacks. But yeah, that is something that, you know, I think would be super interesting to present because we know that they come from two very different eras, but they both have similar common issues, right? They have this regret and guilt that they feel, and them accepting each other for who they are. Like Bucky was the one who, like, he could have went and talked to Old Cap. Like he knew that was Steve. You know what I mean? Like that was a big moment in the MCU universe, man. Yeah. Like the fact that Steve had went and enjoyed that slice of life that Tony went and told him to enjoy. And now we're left with this mode of them kind of feeling like the absence of that. Like, where did they go? Like they lived in Captain America's shadow. You know what I mean? It's almost like who can live in Iron Man's shadow? Like, you know, it's like these are things that are relevant and they're obviously probably feeling, you know, and clearly Sam is. I think Bucky's more worried about that he's fucking murdered people. But, you know, I think that this is going to be really interesting to see. And I would just love for them to be like, oh man, you're like the best friend I've never had. Like, yeah, we've been friends, but like have meant much more to me than I obviously realized, you know?
Yeah. They're friends by proxy, right? Like they're standing next to each other at the funeral and stuff like that, because like, that's the only place they could stand. You know, Wanda's with them.
And they fought each other in the beginning. Like they tried to kill each other, you know? So them coming to like this kind of like, that's growth. That's friendship, my dude. Holy shit.
Yeah. Two things that I thought of. Firstly, I hope Iron Man's daughter, or Tony Stark's daughter, becomes the next Iron Man. God, I would love that so much. My heart, man. Oh, just what a legacy. What a great possible story to exist. I don't know. But the other thing is that I still think that the shield should have gone to Bucky. Like, I know what happens in the comics. The relationship that's built over the course of the MCU, like Bucky was the dude. Like they started together. They should have had the final conversation. Like they should have, like, you know, understood like the complete story of like everything that they've gone through to reach this moment, and, you know, kind of instill with Bucky like, hey, you know, there is still hope for that positive life. Like reach out and grab that, you know, and ultimately like make that the motivator that got him wanting to be on this redemption track. Like, I'm not upset with Falcon for giving the shield back or anything like that, but I just don't know.
Yeah, but Bucky killed. I kind of agree with Fausto here.
Yeah,
Bucky killed Tony Stark's dad.
Well, the first shield, right? It was remade.
Yeah,
it was remade later on. Yeah, but yeah, like and that's fine. But I mean, ultimately,
and
I think
let
that's
us know who
too.
you think should get the shield. This is an interesting question because I don't think there's a wrong answer because I think they're both worthy of the shield. But I just think it's a really interesting kind of debate to have.
and the thing is, the reason that he might not have been given the shield is because he could never be the propaganda, right? He was a terrorist, not by meaning to be, but just he was a terrorist. And I think the world knows that to some degree, right? So he could have,
and the government would never let him appoint him as seen in the actual light in television, like we think how this U.S. agent guy is going to be produced, right?
Yeah. So if Captain America was considering who to give this shield to in terms of who the government would allow to be, the next propaganda machine, it could never be Bucky. But at the same time, we know that Captain America was not that propaganda machine, and he did not give a fuck about American politics at the end of his life, like other than the fact that he lived there and of course was married to
I think we're gonna have another interesting scenario though, because we know that Zemo kind of tried to frame Bucky, obviously, right? Like Zemo committed terrorism, right? And that's a big deal. And I think that we're gonna have another similar situation where he's trying to I think frame superheroes and mutants in a negative light. Like, how is he going to accomplish that, right? And I could see him having an interesting relationship with the U.S. agent. I could see the U.S. agent becoming the next Bucky as far as him mind controlling him, because we know that Zemo isn't a super soldier like this Songbird Flag Smasher character we think is being presented, or Bucky, for example, right? So that makes a really compelling story because Sam is also not enhanced. So him and Zemo kind of have to do things differently as opposed to how a Captain America Steve Rogers or Bucky would. So that's kind of where I'm interested to see where the story goes, because Zemo is not he's not like Thanos, right? Like he has to calculate every decision perfectly on how he's going to ultimately execute his plan.
And the thing is, we haven't seen Bucky be fixed, right? Like he would still respond to the activation code, would he not?
I mean, that's presented in the trailer, right? I
don't know.
He's pointing a gun at Zemo and he's taking the bullets out of his gun. And I think Zemo is going to attempt it and he's going to that doesn't work on me anymore, bitch, type of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Part of me hopes it does. Part of me hopes it doesn't, because it's stuff we've already seen it before.
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen again, right? That's already happened again. I think it's more likely that Zemo does that to someone else. He uses the same kind of template, because that is a template that this is mind control, right? This is type of Hydra, this is Hydra programming essentially, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a good point. He is in the therapy, he is in the rehab to kind of do that. I think that, he probably doesn't have that association anymore. That's probably going to be a big reveal.
He has nightmares about it.
Of course, yeah. yeah. But he probably doesn't have that association to the words triggering him becoming a sleeper cell, or activating a sleeper cell. But
which is going to be interesting to see what Zemo's ultimate end goal is. How does he, he is going to commit terrorism essentially somehow, but how does he do that?
Yeah.
How can he kill superheroes is my question. So some sort of I don't know, nerve agent or something. I don't know. I'm really curious to see where all of this goes. Are they just destroying their image? Just destroying their image? I don't know.
Honestly, he could probably go after the government themselves, right? Because if they are, creating these new superheroes, if the superhero soldier serum is still in existence or trying to be recreated by the U.S. government to create these new beings, that could be something that Zemo goes after to expose, to show the world that, hey, the
government's corrupt.
Yeah, the government's corrupt, and maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't be considered the bad guy in all of this. I'm trying to whistleblow. I'm trying to show the world for what it really is.
My family was killed in Sokovia. I know how you Sokovians feel.
Yep. There's definitely a sympathetic route that they could take. But ultimately I think Baron Zemo is going to do his best to speak magic words into the world, and hopefully everyone follows.
Which is really interesting because we didn't see him at all in the first episode, but oh man, I think that, it's going to be really interesting to see, because it looks like a lot of shit's going to hit the fan in episode 2. Remember, we only got 6 episodes, but this was like a 50-minute episode. So there was a lot. There was a lot too. They can linger a little bit more on some of these emotional notes, which is great. Oh, yeah. But yeah, oh man, it was. I was impressed. I was impressed by the first episode. I really liked the pacing. I felt like the backstory that they touched on. Obviously, we're not going to get the payoffs until later on in the season, I think, because they're going to have to build on some of these plot lines. I just want to highlight a couple of awesome people in chat. By the way, we had a new person join the channel today, 17. Thank you so much for joining, man. We have Brian Murphy, who's also in the chat, who's a joiner. He says, welcome. I would give this shield to Sam, which is all right. And then a few other people are saying Sam and Bucky. So there's a kind of a split between both characters, which is generally kind of how the discussion goes on Reddit and social media as well. So, because there's hardcore comic fans that know that Falcon gets the shield in the comics, but also Bucky gets the shield
makes sense in the comics.
Yeah,
which makes sense in the comics. Again, in the MCU, we do not have the relationship that we have with Bucky and Captain America, with Sam and Captain America, or Steve Rogers, and so like I would have just loved that final. Even if like they had that nice conversation and then he just throws this shield to Sam and is like, "Here, I don't want this anymore." Like I would have preferred that over them not speaking. And again, like having the off-screen relationship to know that Bucky knows that Sam would be more appropriate talking to old man Rogers than of course himself, like
because he's also more cynical about the world, I think. And it kind of lends to one of the main points you've made today. I could see by the end, nobody getting the shield, Sam and Bucky living up to their names, not in Rogers' shadow, which would kind of lend to the idea of them saying that there needs to be a symbol and that they are a separate symbol from the Captain America symbol that is being presented. Because this U.S. agent guy, the symbol that the government's going to be presenting is, I think, in the end going to make people really question what Captain America really is. So I think in a negative light, I think.
And I think that's a part of the nationalism thing, right? Like we don't need a protector of America. Like we have agencies and stuff for that. We need a protector of the world. We need someone that wants to make the world's interests their interests and not, explicitly act for a single country. And of course, like the Sokovia Accords
have ulterior motives.
Yeah. And of course, the Sokovia Accords, like they tried to do that. Like that's what they're trying still to do is, make it to where these special people act after government approval of all of these different countries instead of just under the masthead of America. But still, like government comes with politics, and at the end of the day, like politics slow down. Like if they didn't go and do what they did against American politics, Thanos would have just won outright, right? Like they literally went against the law to win and save the world, like
So yeah, I think that there, a lot of people are saying some really interesting things in chat. Tanter is saying Thunderbolt setup. We talk a little bit about that. I think we could probably talk a little bit more about that subject when we see Z. I don't think they're going to wait till episode 3 to show Zemo. I think he'll be a POV character next week, this upcoming Friday. And I'm thinking there's going to be all sorts of fights going down. I want to see John Walker beat the hell out of the Flagsmashers. There's going to be there's going to be some conflict there. It depends though. Is this John Walker character? Did he get the serum like Cap? Right? Because this Flagsmasher character, at least this one character that we saw, who I think is probably Songbird because of the communication that we see. It's a female character, right? Erin Kellyman that we saw. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. If Flagsmashers have super soldiers, there's going to be a bunch of super soldiers around, I think. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of programs are still running. Like who's running them? Is the U.S. government running these programs? Is it Hydra? Is it Zemo himself who's trying to create a new Winter Soldier to, carry out his terrorism or whatever kind of plan he has? It's going to be really interesting to see where they take it.
Yeah. And also think like if it is, because in The Boys, like one of the big spoiler alert, one of the big things is that like they are producing that chemical compound that changes people into super soldiers or super people. And so I think like a similar story might exist in which the government's doing that, or again that the government's just making Captain America this propaganda machine.
Oh man, you know what would be fucking crazy, dude, that I just thought about is obviously these super soldiers could be a thorn in Zemo's side. Like, he doesn't like superheroes anyways, but maybe he comes up with some sort of formula to hurt superheroes in a negative way, like strip them of their abilities, essentially. That would be fucking so cool, dude. Right? Like the idea that he doesn't want them to exist anymore, and that happens through some sort of alchemical matter, like some sort of negative effect serum as opposed to super soldier serum. That would be fucking sick. What?
Yeah. He starts poisoning the water.
Yeah. That would be well, man, I don't know, man. I kind of really like that idea now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be a really inefficient way to kill superheroes. I don't know. Maybe it's the genius way. It's like putting fluoride in the water, and we've all just accepted that, right? But,
yeah, that's another conspiracy theory that we can talk about. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the Power Broker too. We're also both creating our own content on our own channels, everyone. So if you do enjoy Marvel content, make sure you go in the link in the description of the video. Hacks Dogma is creating his own episode breakdowns, his own content for Marvel stuff. Hacks, your episode breakdown has already dropped, or are you dropping it soon?
Recording the audio right now.
Right meow. And I will be also doing some episodes. I'm going to be trying to do more live streams as well. I really like this new program, Restream, where we have the live chat. We can see you guys on screen. I'm kind of loving this, and we're able to kind of just poke around and do this. Boom. We have some, I think Power Broker will pop up. Those are the kind of topics we're going to be talking here on the Marvel podcast, guys. We're going to be discussing each episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we'll probably do some bonus episodes too, and talk about other things other than this Marvel, because there's Snyder Cut just came out, and everything's kind of dropping at once. Godzilla, I haven't seen it yet. I'm saving it. I actually might go watch it tonight. I'm not sure, but I got to work on some Falcon and Winter Soldier videos for you guys, so that's going to have to be on the back burner for a couple of days. I'll probably save it for this weekend. What did you think about it? Did you watch it?
Yeah, I loved it. It's great. There's so many improvements, like so many incredible, like you watch it and you're like, wow, this should have been it the entire time. Like they should have, there's introductions to characters in the Justice League that I grew up watching, that I love these characters. I'm not going to spoil it for you. But yeah, I am really hopeful for what the future of DC holds. And I think that redoing this movie was great. Like,
they should give Snyder the keys, kind of like Feige, and try to create. They need to create consistency, is what I'm saying, because Marvel has consistency, and that's what we're seeing right now on Disney Plus, my man. Overall, oh man,
yeah. Only thing that I would say take away from the Snyder Cut is, it's 4 hours long. Which honestly, like, yes, it does feel like, wow, I've been watching this for 4 hours, but at the same time, like, nothing seems like it's useless information.
My favorite movies are 4 hours long. The Lord of the Rings extended cuts.
Yeah, I will say, slow-mo, god damn, like, he uses so much slow-mo, it is disgusting. Like,
I heard the Flash scene is dope as hell.
Oh yeah. Like, and like I talked to my wife about this. It's like slow-mo with the Flash always makes sense. Like, he is breaking the speed and how we interpret time. Like, the only way to properly show that is either you zip across and the human eye just can't capture it, or you slow it down. But when you're slowing down when you're slowing down every single superhero move, like, damn, show a contrast. Like, that's the whole point. He's faster than everybody except for Superman, and that's why we have the, if you remember the first movie, it's like, they're fighting and he gets, like, the Superman, like, starts slowly putting his head, and it's like, oh my god, he's just as quick. But yeah, it was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought a lot of great improvements were
but basically what we're saying is there's a lot of content to be covered right now, and it's awesome because 2020 didn't have as much to cover, and now we're kind of overloaded, and that's not a bad thing. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed this episode. I think we're both really looking forward to see kind of how everything goes down. If you guys are enjoying this, of course, and you want to see more Marvel content, hit that like button and subscribe for both myself and Hacks. You can find the links to our YouTube channels and all of our social media in the description of the video. Doesn't cost a dime, and you can go check that out. It just takes a click. And it really helps us out. We really, really appreciate your support. There's been so many awesome conversations and awesome comments and questions. Of course, we can't get to everything on the podcast. So if there's anything you want me to talk about or you want us to address in future videos, let me know in the comments section. Let us know what kind of theories, what kind of topics, what kind of characters you want us to discuss. Of course, there's an endless amount, but yeah, let us know. Leave a comment. Join the discussion. It's always fun. And if you want to support the channel, you can actually see there where you usually make the donation button. They've added a way to hit that join button on the channel now. We've now got 11 members who have joined the channel, who are supporting the channel. And yeah, that's a way to support the channel. So really, really appreciate everyone joining us here today. Of course, we usually have our podcast on Sundays. But yeah, this was cool on Monday too. It's cool to have a discussion on Monday. But either way, look out for the next episode breakdown, either next Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if our schedules work out, or the Monday after. Thanks for joining, everyone. We really, really appreciate you. And yeah, I guess have a marvelous Monday, right? Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll see you all in the next